Hey everyone, welcome to Guilds of the North, your source for Guild Ball news in the Great White North. As always, I'm your host, Paul Filio. Here once again with my buddy, B. Steve.
Hey, Paul.
Hey, Steve. And this week we have a special guest. It's Mr. Bryce the Man from Steamforged Games. How's it going, sir?
Hello. I don't think I'm the man, I'm the other guy. I'm not Perkins. He's the man. I'm the other guy.
Perkins is like pulling the strings from the back now, right? Like no one really sees Perkins anymore. He's not on the podcast as much. It's all you. You're the face of the company now, Bryce. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, Perkins got promoted to be the manager of the dev team, so he's now like having to spend some time doing actual like grown-up managery bits, whereas I get to still just make toys for a living. So I'm pretty happy with that. Like I'm pretty happy with the way that shook out.
So he gets to veto your stuff, though?
Well, technically.
In theory, yeah, okay. But the problem with being the face of the company, Bryce, is it's whenever something goes wrong, even if it has nothing to do with your department, you're the one they're going to tag in every Facebook post. You know that, right?
Yeah. And it's something of a shame because people keep asking me things and I'm like, I don't know. I'm so sorry. This literally has nothing to do with me. I just write rules for toys.
And I was listening to a podcast last week. I don't remember which one it was, and Sherwin was on it, and they asked him a rules question. He's like, "You should ask Bryce." So everyone's like passing the buck. I don't know. I'm not a rules guy. It's him. Yeah. Question. I'll ask Sherwin.
Yeah. I mean, I can answer a bit on fluff for sure. Like, because I've obviously gone pretty deep into Guild Ball fluff, but if you want like really detailed stuff, it's definitely Sherwin is the one to talk to.
You must be pretty good on the fluff. I mean, they did kill your father before he even came out, right? In the fluff, so.
Yeah, that was an awkward day at the office. Like, I got a call from Sherwin just being like, Bryce, I've just killed your dad, and I'm like, in the game or?
Yeah, is something I need to know? Like,
yeah, like, do I need to call the police here? What's happening? Like, yeah. So that was a fun day.
So the reason we have Bryce on the show, it's because changes are coming to Guild Ball, and it's more than just a number that's changing from 4.1 to 4.2.
Yes, the salt must flow. I tell you, Bryce, I'm looking forward to Gubs. When the errata launches, I'm going to have popcorn and soda ready.
Oh, on any day there's an errata or like a big launch, we always schedule a little bit of time in the office to just look at the reactions because we feed on salt. Like I'm Scottish, so salt is a big part of my diet. So like it just the salt sustains me. Like,
well, you should have a good day. I mean,
yeah.
I think people will mostly be happy. I would hope for sure.
I think some stuff will surprise people, though.
I think that's fair. I think the scope of it is going to be a big surprise because this is by some margin the largest errata we've ever done. You know,
I didn't expect all the changes that I saw. I'll be honest, I didn't expect anywhere near the number of player changes that we saw.
Yeah. Well, it's us using the fact that we have digital updates and really letting that because that gives us the opportunity to make more changes and to make global changes like Charmed, for instance, and it gives a lot more freedom to just sort of make slightly bigger changes. So this is a little bit of an experiment in that regard to see whether a change of this scale. I don't think we'll do another one on this scale, to be fair. But that said, you know, never say never. Like, you know, who knows? Like,
but you've said it now. It's quotable, and it's going to be on the internet forever. And even though we're an obscure small podcast, some guy out there, next time you do something like this, will remember, oh yeah, well on this podcast from this Canadian group that you did 5 years ago, you said this.
Yeah,
they'll hold you
to it. I'm gonna have to stand by that. It's like being a politician, right? I have to stand by everything I've ever said. It's true.
or just say you never said it.
Yeah.
Just do like a certain politician, right? I never said that.
I don't remember.
Never happened.
Never. Yeah, I do not recall to that.
Just start talking about a wall.
Regarding the timing of the errata or patch, as depending on how you want to call it, Did all the nationals that are happening next weekend and the WTC push you to release it earlier than September? Because usually you do those errata on 6-month schedule.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So the normal 6-month schedule would have been to release it sometime in September. But basically we didn't we take into account the fact that the WTC is coming up and that list lock for the WTC is, I think, the 1st of September. And so we wanted to give people a few weeks to kind of get everything straight. Because it kind of would have sucked to release an errata after list lock, but before that would have been the ultimate troll, right?
Exactly.
But didn't another major gaming company do that a couple of years back, and it caused quite a fuss?
Yes. I don't, let's not go into that.
No.
But that was definitely something we had in mind. We didn't want to do that because we love the WTC, and we go as a team every year, and we send people, we send the stream team every year as well, and we want to support the WTC basically, and so that was very much in our very much at the forefront of our thoughts. Was we didn't want to release anything in a way that would kind of mess up WTC timings, so we did pull the errata forward a few weeks into August.
Yeah, and there's 3 nationals next weekend, so there's going to be lots of data to collect as well.
Yes, yeah, and that's what we love, is cold, hard data. And it's really, it felt like, because we discussed dropping it after those, but then people only have about a week before WTC list lock. And also, as you say, the 3 nationals on one weekend gives us, it's fun to kind of shake up the game and be let's see how people react, and let's see what their first reactions are, and if those reactions sort of hold true once you start getting into actual competitive tournaments, and at the Masters. Is that is the thing that people sort of look at when the errata first comes out and goes, oh my god, that's incredible, blah 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 blah. Is that what wins those events? Is it not? How does it change up what people are playing, And it just felt like a great opportunity to get a lot of data there, as you say.
Or if people will spot a hidden gem that you didn't see during the testing, and they'll exploit it as well. You have three major events to see that as well.
Yeah, that could be fun.
Miners. The Miners Guild comes to mind, right?
Yeah,
their launch, and then whoops, okay, instant fix.
Yeah, and that's because sometimes so whenever you're developing stuff for Guild Ball, you always kind of want to err on the side of something being powerful, because if a guild comes out and it's just sort of unilaterally below the curve, it doesn't make an impact, and it doesn't, your new cool thing that should be the thing that everyone's talking about and everyone likes isn't making any kind of impact. And so that is why in development we tend to err towards making stuff good. And obviously sometimes we do overstep there, because we're not gods. We're just, well, Perkin's a robot, but the rest of us are human. And we just sometimes, with the miners, we overstep, and if we overstep badly, we do, as with miners, we correct that pretty quickly. But it's good to make things more powerful than not powerful enough, basically, because at least if it's making an impact, people are talking about it, and it's changing up the game, and you can fix it very quickly thereafter if the impact is a little bit too much.
Yeah, especially now with digital distribution, right?
Yeah, of course. And the Miners Errata was another one that just gave us that opportunity to make a very quick change, because digital cards are really, really good as a developer. And it gives you a little bit of a get out of jail free card.
It's like cheating for development, yeah.
A little bit, yeah. Compared to how we've been previously, and the wait times with errata and when we had physical cards, it is a massive boon for a developer to be able to kind of just hotfix stuff. And obviously we can't be as active as like an actual, like say like an MMO, like League of Legends or something, because they do patches like every week near enough, I think. And we can't quite be that reactive, but we can still be much more reactive than we have been in the past, which is really cool.
Yeah, and I actually think comparing to League of Legends is an unfair comparison for you guys because you don't have the pool of data that they do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, you get more data because League of Legends is obviously enormous, right? Like,
well, exactly. There's a bigger sample size, and they have direct access to all the data because it's their servers, right?
Yes. Yeah.
They can literally run the numbers and output a report that says, okay, this is what's going on, this is what we're seeing. Whereas you have to look at people and
there's Longshank, but
Longshanks
does provide more. It provides for captain win rate and like the kicking and receiving mostly.
And the thing is, your sample size is too small. So if you see a bunch of like even 16-man tournaments or something, 3 16-man tournaments is not a big enough sample size to make any kind of judgment call on.
No.
Right?
No. Not unless like half of the players are playing one guild, and
which is what happened in the miners case, right? Like there was a huge skew, so you could see it right off.
Yeah, and that made that a very easy decision for us because we could see the skew very quickly. Yeah. And so that makes it easy. And like Longshanks is a really useful resource, but it's not the only. Like you can. We also have to go a lot on looking at gobs and obviously like we go to a lot of tournaments ourselves and just see what people are playing and see what people's reactions are. And also just gut feeling, honestly, is some of what at the end of the day you just have to go on, particularly when it comes to specific changes. A lot of the time you can look at a model and go, right, this model is too good, but it's very hard to necessarily nail down what is making it too good or too bad, And
it's hard to look at a model in a vacuum too.
Yes. Yeah.
Because a team is just the sum of its parts. So a powerful model doesn't mean anything by itself. Look at Knuckles. Look how Knuckles broke Gubbs briefly. But I don't think he's going to change the game enormously because of the team he's in. If he was in Butchers, it would be different, right? But he's not.
And everything is contextual, and there are models that can exist in some guilds that couldn't exist in other guilds.
Yeah, for sure.
And a lot of that is just finding where that is, like finding where the balance points are. Like Wendell, for instance, in Farmers, his damage output is utterly nuts. And so he couldn't go into Butchers, for instance, because of the amount of damage buffs they have available. But because he doesn't have any damage or attack buffs within Farmers, that's okay in that guild. But it would be completely broken in Butchers. You know what I mean? And those are two very damage-focused guilds. So that's even an example from two relatively, like, guilds with relatively similar playstyles, where a model is okay in one guild and not okay in another guild. And that's not even once you start getting into, like, obviously he could never exist in Fish, for instance, because that would be completely ridiculous,
Let me just imagine that for a second. And actually, your point that you said about players, in one guild being okay but not okay in another guild because of the abilities of the other guild leads us to something that happens in the errata, right? Why don't we? Because we've been talking about miners and stuff in the past. Let's move forward. Let's talk about the errata.
The future of Guild Ball.
Yes.
So, Steve, take it away.
Well, first, some changes that are more global than cards change, and we'll go to more like guild and cards change afterwards. But one big change is the removal of the charm ability or trait from certain character. Can you tell us about why you wanted to do that?
Well, it removed from the game entirely, did it not?
Yeah, it's completely removed.
Okay.
So the reasons were basically twofold there. The first one was a balance concern where it meant certain models like Siren, for instance, without Charmed, just was far too squishy. And it felt like she was like relying on Charmed to survive, and so you're in situations where if she doesn't have Charmed, she just sort of dies. And the opposite being like Tater, where he felt far too tough at 5-0 with 16 health boxes, but he felt fine at 4-0 with maybe slightly more boxes. But and the key thing there is that that's not based on anything you can control. Like, it's not like, because a Guild Ball is all about choice, and you should have restrictions on your choices in terms of what's good in certain matchups or not. But if you just have to hit a model with another model, the random gender of that model shouldn't matter in like on the tabletop. And the second reason was just that we felt we've been growing more and more uncomfortable, and me personally, I've always felt quite uncomfortable with representing sexuality and gender quite such binary rules language on the pitch, because like those things don't impact your ability to play football and don't impact how your opponents play football against you, and that just felt very off now. And so those are the two sort of reasons. Like, one was more rules based and balance based. The other one was much more a sort of more holistic view of the game and the impression that we want the game to give.
And you remove as well Charm Animal from Harrow, right?
Yeah.
So this is a buff to Cena.
Yes. Yeah. Technically, yes, we buffed. Because Harrow got +1 death, but he got -2 health. So yes, technically, we buffed Cena. Putting my name on the line right there.
Exactly.
And every mascot in the game.
Sweet, Salt's making a comeback.
Another global change we saw was the drop of influence on I was going to say Quick Foot, but it's not Quick Foot. It's
Quick Time.
Quick Time. Yeah.
The cost drop. Yeah.
The cost drop. What's the reasoning behind that decision?
Largely because when we were going into this errata, we knew that we wanted to look at Mourn, Vet Rage, and Vet Honor. And so since all of those were changing anyway, the only other model that had it was Vet Brisket. And just sort of looking at it, it felt like at cost 2, it was pretty okay in season 1 and 2, and in season 3 it was something that it was an option that existed, but you kind of never wanted to use it. And in season 4, it felt really quite a poor option for the models that had it. So we felt it was something that we could just give a global drop to the influence cost, and at 1 influence it feels much fairer in a season 4 world. Basically, it just wasn't very good before, and now I think it's quite a good ability.
And it makes it more on par with acrobatic or other dodging abilities as well.
Yeah, because it just felt a bit too expensive for the effect previously.
I think those are the biggest global change we had. Well, there's also the change to the OPD, that Union is not available anymore for the guilds that have them.
Yes, that is correct. Largely,
was that a hard decision to take?
Yeah, it was something we thought about quite a lot during the sort of development of this errata, but a lot of it was because we we've already removed union effectively from minor guilds from all bar 3 of the majors that could use union, and all of those 3 guilds are receiving buffs in this errata, and we kind of ran into an issue where a lot of union models, with the changes in this errata, some of them were starting to show up a bit too much in other teams, and we were starting to have to consider, this model was okay in union, but it's proven to be really very good in one of the other guilds, or vice versa, not vice versa, but that sort of balancing point. And it really just it makes our life easier as developers, and it means we can do more with union themselves and actually make them more powerful without having to take into account how they work in other guilds.
Yeah, from a balancing standpoint, that must have been atrocious.
Yeah, it was. It's been always one of the more difficult bits about Guild Ball is balancing how union worked within their own guild and with other guilds, and we've had to in the past bring down union models because they were too good in another guild, and that felt like we were punishing union for someone else's problem. And so that just makes our life a lot easier, and it just makes union's life a lot easier. And as I say, it only actually affects 3 major guilds at this point. So bless you.
Sorry, yeah, I'm getting over a cold.
Oh, I'm sorry. But yeah. Basically, that's my answer.
Okay. So I think now we can go into more details of the change to individual players. Man, I need another sip of liquid English.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're faltering there, Steve.
Just do it in French. Just go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if we had any listeners before, that'll get rid of them quickly.
So let's start with Alchemist. Veteran Catalyst.
Mm-hmm.
So now he's
good?
damaged.
Good
Yeah, I think so,
good.
Right? He's good. I mean, he's dealing more damage than before.
Yeah,
he's more survivable than before.
Yes, I think the key thing, the thing that kind of got us going into this errata with Vet Cat is that largely I think Alchemists have pretty good internal balance. Like all of their models almost all of their models have a role and you have reasons to bring them. And the Vet Cat was kind of the one that stood out as not...
Out of the 12?
Yeah. He stood out of the 12, yeah.
Yeah, you never saw him, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And it's such a shame as well because he's such a cool model. Like, he's physically so imposing and badass on the table. And that it felt like a real shame that we weren't seeing him. So we wanted to buff him up so that you actually saw him a lot more. And we've done that, basically.
Yeah, I don't think that'll be a problem going forward.
Yeah, because he's now the guild's, like, as he should be, he's the guild's, like, premier damage dealer.
He is, and there's a couple more momentum as well, because Ground Pound now is momentous, as before it was not, so there's even a better reason to do it if you have it on your playbook to clean up the space for him. Mm-hmm. But Burst of Fume is now 2 damage instead of 1 damage for the condition damage, so that's pretty good.
Yeah, so he has, if his target is burning or poisoned, he effectively has momentous 3 damage on 1 hit, which is pretty good.
That seems okay.
Yeah, but the key thing is, while he does have toxicity now to make up for to stop the opponent kind of momentum farming him quite as easily, he's still Def 2 Arm 1. So we still maintained that weakness, but we pushed his strength.
Well, toxicity is similar to the ability that Pelage has, that when your activation, you suffer 3 damage if you engage her.
Yes. So, yeah. That was the rule we sort of modelled it off of, but we've made it I think arguably better.
Because it adds the bonus of poison, I mean.
Yes, yeah. So that adds like a synergy within alchemists where they're now poisoned, and if Venon's there, he just goes in at attack 7.
Yeah,
like knowing he doesn't have to get set up. Yeah,
and he gets the +1 for the assist as well because you're engaging Catalyst, so odds are he's engaging you as well with his 2-inch melee.
Yeah. So that really introduces some really cool synergies within the guild, and also it punishes the opponent for farming him for momentum.
Well, and his counter attack got much better because you move down the double push and the single push and the knockdown as well. So there's a better reason to try to do that counter attack as well if they're trying to farm momentum on you.
Yeah. And the double push did become non-momentous, but we felt like it being a column lower is just better than it being momentously 1 column higher, because he's got the 2 momentous results on column 1 now.
Yeah, exactly. So I think we'll see him now. You managed to make him viable, and the good miniature will be on the table.
Yes, that's what we want.
It's not viable, he's interesting, right?
Yeah, and that's actually really interesting. Like, I'm glad you said that, because that's the one thing above all else we want to make models. Like, good but also interesting is just as important.
And it wouldn't be Guild Ball errata without a Midas errata, I guess.
Yep, it's tradition.
Yeah, I think so. I think. Has there been a single errata that Midas hasn't been touched?
There might have been 1 or 2. I don't know. Like, he is definitely the most errated model in the game at this point.
It's funny because after that initial nerf, they've been trying to get him back to a playable but not OP state. Like, with every errata, he just gets a little bit better. A little bit. They turn the dial a little bit more. Right?
Yeah. Basically, yeah, we're trying to fiddle around with the dial and get him back to where we want him without being too powerful. Because that's Midas has always been too good or not good enough. Like,
yeah. Are you saying there's a chance we'll see back True Replication on him or not?
Well, his version, because True Replication was supposed to represent that he's an alchemist who is constantly changing himself. So I think we now do that on a meta level with the errata. Like, every errata, he just takes on a new form.
Nice.
He's the True Replication.
Yes, that's him.
So some notable change on him is tackle is now momentous. So it's easier for him to generate that momentum and get the ball. And also, instead of acrobatic, he has where they go. Mm-hmm. So that makes him really more mobile. And also another change on his playbook is instead of having double push, double dodge on his last column, it's now double push, double dodge instead of single dodge, double push.
Yeah.
So that. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say someone else I was talking to about him now mentioned if you ever get to charge someone and wrap to the where they go with fulmination up, you get 7 inches of dodge movement from one charge, which is definitely magical Christmas land, but it would be so cool. Like,
that seems okay. That seems fair and balanced.
Yeah, it seems grand, doesn't it? Yeah, it seems pretty good.
I mean, it'll never happen, so it doesn't matter. When it does happen, it'll be so ridiculous that
it's gonna create a good gaming moment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Unless it happens in the final round of a tournament, and then it'll make a Gubbs explosion.
But yeah, I think really his life just got a lot easier. Is the kind of core thing on Midas. Like, he just wasn't quite good enough at the matchups that he was supposed to be good in before. And
yes, Smoke is still the better option, right?
Yeah. Even in the matchups that you should be playing Midas, and now I think he's actually a good option into those matchups.
Yeah, and but the change to his legendary, isn't Midas supposed to be a kind of selfish? But now with his legendary, he gives fulmination to other player, so that's not that selfish anymore.
Who knows? he was selfish. He's altruistic. He's selfish. He's a man that changes by degrees every single time. He's a chameleon. You can never know what he is.
So
except handsome. Except very handsome. He's a handsome boy.
So giving fulmination to other players, so it's going to add more mobility again to the rest of the team on his legendary turn.
Yes, and that just really makes the life of your strikers like Crucible and Vitriol, and that it just makes their lives way easier on that turn as well. So that legendary turn is you're kind of actually really seriously threatening 2 goals if you've set up well for it, and that's something your opponent really like. That's a genuine kind of serious threat that your opponent has to play around now.
Yeah, because of all the dodges, you'll be able to move faster than expected.
Yes, yeah, and it also means that like Vitriol, for instance, becomes a 2-inch melee zone with a tackle dodge on 1. And that's it. It just means your opponent has to work much harder to keep the ball safe from that team.
Well, that's why you need models with close control, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
Next one is kind of the one that everybody was expecting, so it's not surprise he was changed. It's Vedbor.
Mm-hmm.
So just a quick question regarding Vedbor. You saw obviously that he was above the curve and it was blatant from the first tournament and everything. So were you tempted to do a hotfix like you did for the minors a month or 2 after his release instead of the usual cycle?
It was something we talked about, but his win rate never... Like, his win rate's sitting about 60%, and the minors, when they came out, their win rate was at something ridiculous, like 70, right off the bat, and never really dropped below 60. So the minors where we felt more egregious than Boar. Boar is very good at beating people that don't know how to deal with them. Like, he's a model that you definitely even previously, he's a model that you definitely benefited from practice against because he could be controlled. The problem was he was you could still get a lot out of him. Like, he punished mistakes harder than any other model in the game, I think. Because he's just if you screw up, he kills someone.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
No, and it was much too easy for the Butcher player to do that. And so because his win rate was never quite as high as the minors, like, we didn't feel like we talked about it, but at the end of the day, we didn't feel it was worth an emergency errata for him. But it was definitely something we talked about. Like, it was definitely something that was kind of like being discussed internally, but we didn't feel it was necessary. We felt he could wait until this errata, especially because we knew that this errata wasn't going to be 6 months away. It was going to be like 5.
And also, he was not. Yes, his win rate was high, but he wasn't like dominating and winning all kind of tournament like minors were before the errata as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so, yeah. That's the key thing. Like, his win rate was high, but it was very, very high in the kind of 4-2 bracket of tournaments and like 3-3 bracket of tournaments. Like, he wasn't necessarily like winning or even really making the finals of a lot of big tournaments.
Yeah.
And that suggested to us that there were tools to deal with him. People just had to be good enough to use those tools. But obviously you can't just balance for the very top end of play. You have to also balance for the mid-tables, because no one likes to just show up every week to a tournament and get stomped by Vetbor. So we had to balance that for that kind of mid-table level of play.
And were you surprised by the Japanese tweet that they said they were banning him for the time being in their meta?
Oh, no one's actually asked me about that on a podcast yet. Good job. This is the fourth or fifth one I've done. Yeah. I thought that was a really interesting thing. I obviously I can see the point. I'm not sure if it was worth doing when they did it because the errata at that point was about 2 weeks away. But obviously, I guess they didn't know that.
Well, we knew because we were part of the media, but at the time, like general public didn't know about, and even the pundit didn't know about the date of the errata. We knew it was coming, but we didn't know the date exactly.
Yeah. I don't know how I feel, honestly, because it's obviously a bit disappointing as a developer that a group of your meta have felt the need to do that. But the flip side is, I would also say that I don't like Vet Boar is by no means the most busted thing that has ever existed in Guild Ball. Like, I think Season 2 Obulus was more oppressive. I think Season 2 Fillet was more oppressive. I think in Season 3 Thresher, I think was more oppressive than Boar is. And so it's interesting to see the lines that people draw and when and where they draw those lines. And it might be that the community in Japan didn't necessarily exist in numbers enough to make an official announcement at that point. Yeah. And I'd be really curious to see if they were. But it's just, it's interesting seeing where and why people draw the line, because they didn't block Corbelli, for instance, who has a higher win rate than Vet Boar. But I guess has also been out for less time, so maybe that's what that was.
Yeah, because, I mean, let's be honest, I found Corbelli more quote-unquote broken than Vet Boar, because you just need to get to 8 and then you win the game if you didn't use a legendary.
Yeah, if you're good enough to not have to use the legendary until you get to 8, then it was far too hard to stop that third goal in that instance. Like, absolutely. And I think it's interesting because Corbelli had or currently still has, I guess, a higher win rate than Vet Boar, but Vet Boar is the one that they have has really drawn the ire there. And I'll be curious to see what their reaction is to the errata. Basically, I'll be really curious to see how that goes down.
Because he's done. Go ahead, pal.
I was gonna say maybe it's also because their meta is smaller and younger, and the skill floor for butchers is lower.
I think that might be part of it.
So I think while Corbelli is super powerful, I think it's maybe a more skill intensive game to play Masons for that goal scoring Masons team than it is to play a Vet Board. I'm going to run into you and kill you team.
It might, I think you might well be right with that one.
Just for inexperienced players, right? And inexperienced players won't understand how to deal with them.
Yeah, because that's the key thing. Like when we all the first time when we looked at Guild Ball for the first time, we all thought butchers, like for your first 2 or 3 games, we always thought butchers were broken, right? Because you get shown the game and you're like, but they just run over and hit me and I die, and then you kind of figure out that actually the ball exists. And you're supposed to use that to do things and score goals, and then you kind of go, actually, that's not, I can work around this. And I think you might be right. Like that might be part of it. Is that possibly their meta is just still in a kind of much younger stage than the meta in countries like the UK, obviously, or the US or Canada or Germany, where it's much more established. And there's a lot more kind of experienced players around. But I'd be really interested to talk to them, actually. Like, I don't know if they're listening, but it'd be cool to have a chat about that.
I wonder if there's a way to actually find out the information.
I don't know. It's probably just because they haven't applied to the media program or anything, but it's probably just posting on Gubs or something and just been like...
Yeah. Hey, Japanese meta.
Hey.
I mean, maybe just comment on the post they posted where they said they were banning him.
It was on Twitter. So.
Oh, was it on Twitter? Well,
yeah.
Then it's easy to reply to, right?
Yeah, should be. Yeah, but yeah, not in terms of you're doing it wrong and I'm mad and I want to come on and be mad at you.
No, but hey, I'm curious what.
Like I'm curious to know the actual. Like I guess it's kind of hard to tell that from a conversation as well. Like you kind of need to go there. I'm going to try and get a funding for an SFG staff trip to Japan.
Yeah.
So just so I can figure out what's happening over there. It's very, very important for the game.
Or just try to up along next time Matt goes to China to the factory or something like that.
Yeah. Well, we just had two of our. I think it was like 2 weeks ago. We just had two of our product team over in China looking at like God Tier and the latest Dark Souls models. So maybe next time they go, I'll be like, can I just skip along and then also go like another 1,000 miles to go to Japan?
I was going to point out to Steve that Japan and China are two different countries.
I know, but like it's halfway there from UK, so.
Even more than halfway, but yeah.
I mean, I feel like if I can if they will fly me the I don't even know, like I'm just going to pick a number, 3,500 miles to China, I can make the last 1,000. You know what I mean? I can probably figure that bit out by myself. Like, just hitchhike, it'll be grand.
So let's go back to Vedbor.
Let's talk about the changes. We're sidetracking pretty heavily here, guys. Poor Bryce is not going to get to sleep until like 5 a.m. at this rate.
So it's all right. It's actually going to be quite exciting in 3 minutes because it's my birthday in 3 minutes. So we get to do that. We get to do that live on air. So I hope you're all excited.
I'm very excited. Steve will sing you happy birthday in French.
Yes, I get to sing. Horribly, but I'll sing.
I do want to hear Joyeux anniversaire.
It's going to be Bonne Fête.
Bonne Fête?
Yeah. Bonne Fête, yep.
Wonderful. French Canadian is a whole other thing.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
Vedbor.
He's slower.
Yes.
He's less resilient. And one of the major things that's changed as well is the influence. Now is 3-2 instead of 4-2.
Yep. Yeah.
And also the playbook, the second column is not with damage anymore.
And the fifth column is with reduced damage, greatly reduced damage.
Yeah.
So you've go ahead, Bryce.
No, I was going to say someone I think earlier pointed out that I don't know if a playbook result has ever effectively gone from column 2 to column 5 on a playbook before in the history of Guild Ball, because effectively the 1 damage GB result's gone up from 2 to 5. Like,
yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
but now it's a meaningful choice, right?
Yes.
It's not, I'm just going to do 4 damage, boo-hoo, and a Guild Ball result. Now it's, okay, I'm going to do 1 damage Guild Ball result, or I'm going to do that momentous 3 from the column before, or I'm going to do that 5 from the column after, or whatever you rolled. Like, it's now you have to think about it.
Yeah.
It's no longer a no-brainer.
Like, without really going too specifically into it, like, as I say, the key thing with Bor was he was just too easy to get the most out of. He was too easy to get the best results out of, and you didn't have to make that many choices in terms of it was like, just charge and you'll probably kill whatever you're charging. You know what I mean? Like, without really needing to think about it all that much. And that does fit his intended playstyle because he's a big angry boy. Like, he's still Bor, but he's just slightly less good at it now. Like, you actually have to make some decisions there.
Well, he's more interesting to play now. Like, it's no longer a no-brainer, right? So, yes,
you'll have to roll the dice to see if you kill the player you charge.
He may not instantly guaranteed obliterate everyone, but he'll be more he'll feel more friendly when you're being beaten down by him. And he'll feel more interesting to play while you're playing him because you'll actually have to think.
Yes, that's absolutely true. You actually have to... Sorry, it just ticked over to midnight and my girlfriend just came out with a wee candle and a cupcake.
Oh, nice. Go ahead, Steve. Go.
Bonafide, Bryce. Bonafide, Bryce. Bonafide, Bryce. Voilà.
Just blow my candle out.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Bryce.
Thank you very much.
Have you hit the ripe old age of 30 yet?
No, I'm 28 now.
I was going to say 28.
So I'm getting there. Two years left before the big 3-0 dawns.
It's all downhill from there, Bryce. Just letting you know.
Great, good. I've got. It feels like it's been all downhill for a few years now. Like.
Oh no, you still have a few good years to look forward to.
That's exactly what I wanted to hear. Thank you very much, guys. All right, so let's talk about the greatest birthday present someone could ask for: nerfing Vet Boar.
Well, I think we actually covered everything, right?
Well, yeah, like putting in more like that, it means also that he's not the automatic choice for your captain as well. I mean,
yeah, that's true.
You have to consider kind of, well, maybe I can bring Ox back because let's admit it, Ox is still really good as well.
Yeah. And also, I think Fillet actually is much better than people give her credit for because we playtested her in Season 4 with Roast and Cinnamon. And then, because at the time we thought they'd be out in like November, December, and then obviously they got delayed. And so when Fillet came out, everyone was like, Season 4, she's not that great anymore. But because she was missing 2 very key pieces of her toolkit. And I don't know if people have given her a chance now in 4.1 with the cooks out because Cinnamon Roast really buff Fillet and she's still very scary.
And I think we'll see her more now anyway. People are going to be trying stuff with her because of Lane.
Yeah, I think there's a potentially really interesting like kind of 2-2 butcher lineup almost where you can be like, look, Fillet's going to get you 2 kills at some point in the game. Like, she's going to get you 2 kills. So the rest of the team kind of focuses around trying to get 2 goals or even get 4 kills because you're still playing butchers at the end of the day, let's be honest.
Yep.
Well, we have Antoine, the other host of the show, who couldn't be here today. He wants to do a 3-0 butchers lineup, so...
Really?
Yeah. Well, he was doing 2-2 with Ox, so... I'm not surprised. Okay.
I can kind of see that actually, like with Shank, Lane, Vet Ox for Shank, and probably me Hook to tool Fillet or Lane up because Shank, Lane, and Fillet are all like pretty good strikers because they're all pretty fast. And then like between you're still playing butchers, you're gonna get 2 takeouts at some point, right?
Yeah,
like that's gonna happen.
Even if you want it or not, yeah.
Next guild on the list is Blacksmith. They got some changes, but it's a
bunch of minor tweaks, right?
Yeah,
important minor tweaks, but minor tweaks.
Well, I'll start with Faris. The only, if I can say, change she got was from her legendary. Mm-hmm. So instead of being +1/+2 kick, it's now +1/+0 kick, and it's still the same for the if she's captain, it's still the aura for the free pass as well.
Yes, yeah. So it's still very good, but we kind of wanted to reduce her ability to act as a kind of striker because previously with 1 influence she could sprint 10, drop ball within 2 and then have an 8-inch kick from there with give it a whack, or drop the ball within 1, sorry, and then use give it a whack. So like that kind of striker level threat range wasn't really what we intended for her. And so it means you have to play a little bit closer, and she's just slightly less good at kind of actually personally scoring goals. So she's still not bad at it, but she has to get much closer to the enemy goal for that to happen now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, she's still actually very good at it, right? Her threat range is still very, very good. She's just no longer better than the best strikers in the game in terms of range. Yeah.
It's going to change as well. The first turn, legendary, passing the ball to all your player and getting the tap in pass to everybody as well, because you're losing the 2-inch of range on the kick.
Yeah. It means you have to stay much closer to the models that you're trying to pass to. Yeah.
The next one is Anvil, and for him as well, it's only a change in legendary. This one is interesting because this is the first time you make in Blacksmith's legendary a distinction when he's captain, a distinction between the effect to master and an effect to apprentice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So can you talk about that a bit?
So I think we've probably all been on the receiving end of an Anvil captain legendary turn where you just kind of are like, oh my god, I can't do anything to these models because they all have tough hide, they all have stoic, so I can't even like push them out of the aura, I can't like push the apprentices out of sentinel, I can't, and they're all tough hided, so like you just have no good models to try and attack. And that felt a little bit too punishing. So we wanted to keep the spirit and the feel of the legendary, but we felt splitting up the effects was the best way to still get that feel across. But it now gives your opponent more chances to interact on that legendary turn. It was just too uninteractive, too much of a kind of a hard no. You don't get to do anything.
Yeah, you can.
Negative play experience, right?
Yeah. At the end of the day, I think that Anvil Legendary was too much of a negative play experience, and now it still is tough to play into, but your opponent, like the Blacksmith player, has to think about their positioning a lot more, and they have to make different choices, and you have more ways of interacting, which is the key thing.
And you can get rid of Sentinel on the legendary turn of Anvil as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Or you can attack, you can't just throw the masters up and be like, these are all 3-2 or 2-3 models with tough hide. You now have to go, they're stoic, and they don't have bad defensive stats, but they don't have tough hide, so suddenly they're models that you can hit. Like, they're models that you can actually damage much more easily. And yeah, it just gives you a lot more opportunities to actually do things on Anvil's legendary turn.
It doesn't shut the turn up.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And also, he lost 1 health.
Yes, he did. That's a little thing that we just felt he was very slightly too tough.
Okay,
I think they call that salt in the wound.
Like, he's still probably the single toughest model in the game. Like, with 2-3 armor and tough hide.
Yeah.
I think he's still the single hardest model to take down. Even with 21 boxes instead of 22, you know.
It's more achievable now.
Fine.
And also, his apprentice got some change. Just a small change. Like, just a minor. Just a little one. Just a minor change.
Just about an inch.
Yeah, exactly.
Just an inch. How much difference can an inch make?
I don't know. Tell us about that.
So that was just so the thing that this was an interesting one, because the thing that people kept complaining about with Sledge was his damage output, because his damage output is phenomenal, but that's a really interesting point where, as a developer, you have to go, right, but that's damage his intent, output, right? Yeah. He's intended to be, much like Anvil's intended to be like one of, if not the hardest model to take out in the game. Sledge is supposed to be, potentially, if you get all the buffs in place, one of the highest damaging models in the game. And that's the whole sort of core of the model and the whole intent of the model. So we didn't want to change that, but what we felt was it was a little bit too easy for him to apply that damage. So it's fine for him to have that ridiculously high damage output, And to use something that was an example that was really useful to us as developers, like DC, like David Carl, when he joined the team, like 3 years ago now, when me and Perkins were still like, we just started the job, so we were like at the time we were like a tram driver and an unemployed English Lit student, or unemployed English Lit graduate, and we were like, oh no, you can't do this. Like, I can't remember the specific thing, but we said, like, you can't put this on a model. And DC was like, okay, like, but if a model could have 10 on the first column of their playbook, they could have 10 damage. If their movement is 0/0, they would still be bad. So there is obviously a balancing point at which this is okay, and this ridiculously high damage is okay. And that's kind of a key thing which we've tried to do in development since then, is if a model has strengths and weaknesses, you try and push the strengths and push the weaknesses rather than gravity welling everything towards the average. Because that's the gravity welling everything towards the average is the easy way out. It's kind of the red button that developers can press as a panic button and be like, okay, no, we need to bring this down. Let's just reduce it so it's more average. The much more interesting way and the much more way that you get to maintain the flavor of the model is to maintain the strengths, but increase the weaknesses so that the strengths are balanced out. And that's basically, sorry, that took a detour through some dev.
No, it's okay.
Examples, but yeah, so that's what we tried to do with Sledge. Is make him, like, change his role slightly so that he's more of a counterpunch model rather than the model that you can kind of throw out and hit things. Like, he has to think much more about how and where you can apply that damage, but he still gets to keep his phenomenally high damage output.
Yeah, I think he's still good, but I'm pretty sure people are going to say he's garbage now because he's only 1 inch melee, but...
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it does make him less good, but that's still okay, I think, in this case.
Yeah, it does make him less good, but that was the point. Like, it
doesn't make him bad, though.
Yes, I think that's fair. He still has...
Knee-jerk reactions are knee-jerk reactions, right? And you're going to get that no matter what you do.
Well, you'll get lots of salt out of that one.
I would expect so, and I think people will play a few games and they'll go, it's not that bad. Like, I suspect that's one that I think you're right. We might get some knee jerks on, and then people will play a couple of games with it, and they'll kind of settle down a little bit.
The next skill that we're going to talk about are the brewers. Tapper got some changes a bit.
Got some love.
Some love. Well, he got commanding mark target back because he used to have it, right, in season 3, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, yeah, he did have command mark target back in season 3, and ironically never used it then because it was only range 8, and so he couldn't use it himself, and also the playbook trigger for it was non-mentis and didn't have damage on it, where now he gets to use it on column 1 with a bit of damage. So the role that we saw for Tapper is the model that you can throw forward into your opponent's team, and he then, like, knocks down some models, puts up commanding aura, and like, is that kind of like bait it. What Perkins sometimes refers to as a bait and hold model. He's your vanguard, right? And now, in his intent was that he goes in, does that, and then the rest of the team kind of floods up to support him after that. And so all of the changes that we've made to him are intended to make that role better and easier for him.
Yeah, because he got more hit point now.
Yeah.
And old Jake is now 8 inches instead of 6. So even though he's more forward, he can help the rest of the team that's back while they are waiting to activate and join the melee.
Right, yes. And let's not forget Barroom Brawl, which is the new ability he gained.
Yes, absolutely. So that, again, in that sort of role that we envisaged for him, Barroom Brawl just really helps it out because the activation immediately after Tapper you can have a brewer model charge in at -1 influence and +2 movement from marked target. So he really helps his team kind of get up there and helps them compete, because in the resource game, he doesn't give free heroics the way that Corker and Esther's do. Right. So he needs to compete. Like, the easy option there, actually, talking about like easy options for us there, was give him some way of free heroics, of giving his team free heroics. But again, that would just be homogenizing the brewer captain.
It's very samey, right? Like,
yeah. And at that point, you're just seeing which flavor of free heroic do you want, you know? Whereas we felt that the way of letting him compete was letting him bring more influence. So with his heroic, he effectively brings 5 influence compared to 2 for Corker and 4 for Esther's. And then Barroom Brawl also helps that within the turn, because you can probably save like 2 or 3 influence from getting those cheaper charges as well. So he's actually effectively potentially bringing like 6 or 7 influence in any given turn. And that just helps him. It helps him in the influence resource game rather than the momentum resource game, because obviously, like, you're spending that influence and probably generating momentum, and that's how he competes.
Yeah, that's interesting. It makes him different than the other captain. So that's it all helps you make harder decision who to bring on year 12.
Yes, which is really what we always try and do, is make people's lives as hard as possible when they're picking their 12. Basically,
make every model viable.
Yes, really. Like ideally, that's the end state that we want to get to, is make every model a choice for inclusion in the 12.
Just like the next one, Stoker.
Yes.
Which wasn't seeing much love or field play as well. And then you Brewers.
Yeah, like I don't think I've seen him played in season 4, unfortunately, because he wasn't really doing enough in the role he was intended to be in, which was that kind of range damage support. And then the ability to go in himself, and he has his own damage increase, but he just wasn't proving to be good enough. So we tried to give him a slightly different role of Searing Strike. So now actually you might consider bringing him into those teams that have a higher armor, so blacksmiths or masons and engineers as well to an extent. Right. And he really helps Brewers out in those matchups, and that also just helps him set up his own damage as well.
So, and he's also a bit faster as well to join the fray with the change to the heroic.
Yes, so that also helps him. It helps him it gives him more of a role, because he obviously doesn't have a 2-inch melee, and he's competing with models like the Veteran Decimate and Hooper are probably the 2 models that he's competing with for slots and lineups. So giving him that extra bit of movement, it helps him put out Burning before he's done any attacks as well. And it also helps him compete more and get slightly faster to get in there and start applying that damage.
I think he's pretty interesting. Hopefully you'll see play.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think it's still tough. Like, there's so many good models in Brewers, and there's a lot of synergy there. So I think it's gonna be tough to slide him. Like you said, against blacksmiths or something, maybe if he makes the 12, if he's an option.
I think he has place in the 12, and he's going to be more matchup dependent for the 6.
Yeah, I think that's definitely fair, and we're definitely happy if models like. Sometimes a model will be a tech piece that you only maybe bring for 1 or 2 matchups, and that's okay. Like, as long as every model is useful.
Exactly.
And for that matchup, you're gonna be happy that you have it at your disposal. Not disposal, but
no, disposal is the right word.
Yeah, at your disposal for use in your 6 for those matchup.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, as long as you're happy as long as when you do bring him, you're happy you brought him in the matchups you brought him in. That's basically what we're looking for.
The next one, they have a similar overall that the Falconers got from Season 3, Season 4. It's the Cooks. So I feel like the Cooks...
You mean like a similar style rework, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Similar style rework.
Big overhaul in the Cooks.
Yeah, exactly. They were poop and now they're good. If I can say. Well, summarize.
You know what? Poop is... The thing is, I think they were, and correct me if I'm wrong, Bryce, but I think they were designed with Season 3 in mind.
Yeah.
And they weren't really touched in Season 4 at the beginning.
Yeah.
So they kind of felt like Union, right? Union went Season 3 being super powerful. They weren't really touched for Season 4 that much.
Mm-hmm.
And then they kind of fell behind the curve.
Yeah, I think that's definitely fair.
I think that's kind of like what happened with Cooks.
Yeah, and really that was the thing, was that we play tested Cooks in Season 3. And so they were very much balanced for Season 3. And the game kind of moved past them a little bit, and obviously they ended up not coming out until after the last errata, so we kind of had to wait until now to really touch them. And now we've managed to... I think we've managed to maintain the weakness of the guild, which is that they are quite squishy, but we've managed to up their damage output so that squishiness is balanced out by the fact that their damage output is so incredibly high now.
Yeah, well, we're going to talk about Wellington first, and just looking at his playbook, right? His top result now is a 4 damage. Okay, you lost the push dodge on it, but who cares? It's 4 damage as opposed to 2, right?
Yes. Yeah,
so that's a big difference.
And also Chef Special having a bigger aura range.
Yeah.
And affecting character plays is the big one.
Yeah.
Because, dear God help us, Spice is terrifying now.
Yeah, it's going to be really impactful for character play.
With Intensify, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because Wellington is still intended to be more of a support captain than a work captain. And, like, don't get me wrong, he's still...
he'll do some work, but he's there to set up, right?
Yeah. He's there to, like, he can put up Singled Out and Chef Special, and he can Scathing Rebuke someone, which now also no longer causes damage. So he can Scathing Rebuke to remove some conditions and to give out dodges. And also, like... as we say, like, so basically the way Intimidation works out for dice math is that everything on his playbook is effectively 1 column lower than it actually is. And that's not the official dice math, but as a very, very rough guide, you look at that 2 damage and you're like, it's actually on column 2. The Singled Out's actually on column 1, and the 1 damage is effectively free because you should always hit it if you're making an attack against any model because of the Intimidation. So his damage output is higher than it looks on paper, but it's still not, like, it's not spectacular for a damage captain. He'll do a decent amount of work, but he is, as you say, mostly there in a support role.
Yeah. And Scathing Rebuke doesn't do damage because it doesn't scar you emotionally now when he yells at you.
Yeah, Gordon Ramsay's nice now. I saw him smile we saw him smile at a child, and we were like, we got to change that rule. Like,
he's turned over a new leaf.
Yeah, he's not as angry anymore. Like, he's still pretty angry, but he's not as angry.
The mascot got some love as well. Now he's a feral weasel.
Yeah, a feral, vicious weasel. Yeah, it really just
effective without influence.
Yeah, exactly. It's free momentous damage from your mascot. What more do you want? Like,
yeah, exactly.
I'm on board.
Yeah. That's kind of exactly what you want from the mascot of a damage-based guild, you know.
And you also reduce his max influence, so he wouldn't have 4 attacks.
Yeah, because weirdly, like I don't know. I didn't. That was a Perkins call. He didn't seem to want people doing a pepper missile, and I disagreed. But you know,
well, it could have worked. I mean, with Chef's special singled out. I mean, and charging for 1 and +2 range with all the buff. It could have been brutal. Rapping like crazy.
It could have been delicious. Is what I want to say.
It's something you have to actually be really careful on mascots because they have very short playbooks. So when guilds have a lot of attack buffs and death debuffs in guild, the mascots can actually end up doing way more damage than they're kind of intended to. So that is actually probably why that influence coming down was fair, but it would have been funny. So
the weasel missile.
Yeah.
It's still going to happen. I am still going to weasel missile someone. and I think I'm going to have to yell weasel missile when I do it.
Yeah. Please do.
We'll try to get it on video for you, Bryce.
I would appreciate that a great deal. Yes.
The next model is Spice, and you just spice her up.
Yeah.
To do a bad butt. Man, she's good.
Yeah, and that's so. The interesting thing about Spice is something that we can do with models in minor guilds that don't cross over. We can kind of make them a little bit crazy because they are making up for the lack of choices within the minor guild.
Flexibility, right?
Yeah. So you make up for lack of flexibility by making the models that they do have and that don't cross over. You make them a lot stronger. Yeah. And Spice is now, I think, got to be up there with among the highest potential damage in the entire game.
Oh, for sure, because with just a bit of setup, she's going to be so brutal.
Yeah.
Just with the weasel missile?
Oh, yeah, because now she has assist with Pepper, so for +1 attack, +1 damage, and her damage is now 4 on the last column instead of 3.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be quite something.
And all of her damage results
are one column.
They're 1 column lower as well.
Yeah. And let's not forget that she's Berserk.
Yeah. Yeah. With Intensify.
Intensified, that works with the new Chef Special rules as well.
Absolutely.
So I guess wrapping to 4 damage plus Intensify is going to be brutal. It's going to massacre things. But like you said, she has weaknesses because she's still 4-0 with only 14 boxes. So
yes,
if you survive, she's easy to take out.
Yeah, and that's really what I keep talking about that, but that is the theme of what we try and do generally is push strengths, and maintain or push weaknesses. And so like this, she's made of paper. Like she'll fall apart if she takes a hit, but dear God, she'll kill someone first.
She's a glass cannon.
Yeah. Well, she will ruin someone's day first.
And that's how all the build up and everything that presented the cooks prior to their release were that there are glass cannon, but their damage were not on par with the butchers. So I think that's now not the case anymore.
Yeah. I think now their damage is high enough to justify the lack of health options.
And the last model that's only for cooks that got some love as well is Sugar. Yes. She got Chef Special, which she didn't have. So that's pretty nice because you can have a huge aura of +1 damage across the field. But
it also means actually that they're less completely reliant on Wellington for their damage output. Because previously it sometimes kind of felt like if Wellington got taken out, their damage just dropped through the floor. Like if he got taken out before he activated, it was kind of like, oh, this is bad for cooks. Like their damage is just so much lower now.
It's going to be a long turn.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You're kind of like, you start getting to that point where you're like, I just need to get through this turn and get him back on the table. whereas now Sugar has a second chance for it. So, if Wellington gets taken out, you're sad, but you're not that sad.
She lost Fire Blast, but she gained a new ability, which is unlike. It's not once per turn, right? On the card we have.
Yeah, the version you have is spectacularly good.
Is it too good?
Yeah. That was Perkins sending out older versions of cards again, which is always fun.
Oh, but see, so at first it was not once per turn, and it was okay.
For about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
5 minutes, I guess.
No, I honestly don't even know how that happened, because it should have just been the same as Fire Blast, because it has the same sus OPT and everything. Yeah. And somehow it got changed on that card, and it's like, oh, interesting, cool. I have no idea how that happened.
Well, in those cases, what you do is blame the graphic designer.
Yeah, but they also, if we annoy the graphic designers, the entire company falls apart. So, do you know what? It was probably my fault. I'm just going to take the blame.
You got broad shoulders, right? Just
yeah. Got these big farm boy shoulders. I can shoulder that.
So tell us about the new ability. That's once per turn.
It's essentially Fire Blast. It has all the same sort of rules and restrictions as Fire Blast. But it's only range 2, so it is very short ranged, but it does 4 damage on a hit. So that is, again, just she needs to get closer to use it, but it hurts, because she can chef special herself as well, so she can effectively have a 5 damage Fire Blast, 3-inch AoE. So
seems okay.
Don't bunch up, kids.
Yeah, exactly. It's good against those Sentinel blacksmith.
Yeah. If they bunch up against you, you're like, hi, boys. This isn't going to be fun for you.
And the other change you made is reducing the snapshot turret range for the icing of the cake. But at the same time, you moved up her normal kick stats.
Yeah. We just felt that rule was a bit too punishing for her before, in terms of it was very hard for her to score goals in her own activation, and she was too reliant on being a snapshot turret. And so we just felt like we could rejiggle the rule a little bit to make it still function identically when making snapshots as before, but it makes her life much more easy during her own activation.
She doesn't have to be really up the field, out without her friend to support her.
Yeah.
She feels more like other strikers.
Yeah, but she still has that. She still is incredible at snapshots.
Yeah,
this is the one of the few examples where we did decide to consciously homogenize her a little bit, as you say, and make her feel a little bit more like other strikers, just because her life was a bit too difficult in that role beforehand.
Yeah, all in all, I think it's really good change for the cooks, and I feel it's the same thing you did for Falconers between season as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think definitely the cooks are now, I think they're going to see a big bump in both play rate and win rate. So that's going to be pretty cool.
The next character, it's the velocity nerf. Rivet change. My bad.
Well, no, I mean you're right. This is effectively a nerf to speed and velocity.
Yeah.
I don't think there's too much needs to be said about that one. That was just a little that kind of goal scoring aspect of her game was a bit too strong and didn't have as much counterplay as we would have liked.
Yeah, so just to be clear, because we didn't actually specify what the change was. It used to be she granted all her squaddies her tack value.
Yeah.
And now she only grants them +1 tack. Yes. So velocity will not have 6 tack. And speed will not have 6 tack. But they'll still have 5. So.
Yes, they will still have 5. And vet velocity will have 7 now. So
which is pretty good.
Yeah, maybe we'll start
you'll see her
vet velocity. Yeah.
But you didn't change Toe, which is one of the ability as well. That's not criticized, but it looked as really powerful on her. Did you look at it to like change it to once per model or something like that? Or
so we definitely looked at potentially doing more on Rivet, but we felt she hasn't been out that long. Her win rate isn't as kind of egregiously high as like Boar or Corbelli, and as a result, we were kind of like, we've identified one part of her game that is definitely too good. We can bring down that game. It's not a massive change, but it's a bit of a quality of life change for everyone else. And we didn't feel comfortable making like more in-depth changes just yet. But she's definitely kind of, there's models that we refer to as being on a watch list, which is the ones that we're like, you're not getting hit hard this time, but we're keeping an eye on you. And she's definitely one of them. So if maybe in future, but for now we felt like, we definitely discussed it, but we felt it wasn't justified at this point in time.
Nice. Okay. Next one, we have Grange, who gets some buff again.
I was surprised. Yes. This is not the captain I expected to get buffed.
Yeah, we were expecting a treasure buff. Bryce, what happened?
Well, I had to get a farmer buff in there somehow, so this was kind of a trade-off. Like, I wasn't allowed to do Thresher, so I got to do Grange, basically.
It's some
So Grange obviously got +1 influence, and Constitution became an aura based on him rather than a rule he gives to a friendly model. And the key thing there was actually the influence change, because when we changed farmers going into season 4 and we gave them the whole playbook construction, we gave them the whole no buffs and like no tack and no damage buffs, we actually struggled a little bit to find a role for Grange, as I think has been obvious because we errated them last time, we errated them this time as well. We needed to figure out how many Reapers he could and should be able to bring. And that's been just something that we've been trying to figure out. And I think we've now kind of got it right, and that he can bring up to like 3 Reapers by himself, because he doesn't have the same output as obviously Thresher, so he needs to compete in other ways, and his way of doing that is by kind of drastically buffing his team. And so that's why his abilities are now much stronger at supporting his team, basically.
Yeah, because you're almost fine with only him and Plowman as planter, and the rest can be Reaper, and you should be not too far behind on influence as well.
Yeah. And you'll have 4 harvest markers a turn, and you have a lot of models that can actually do work and can actually impact the game. So that's a really cool, different playstyle to Thresher, who kind of only ever wants to run at absolute max 2 Reapers, and he hates running 2 Reapers. He really doesn't like doing that. That's something you do if you absolutely have to.
But the biggest question, Bryce, is, are the changes that are made to Grange enough to convince you to play him in a tournament game?
Yes, absolutely.
I've heard it here, folks.
Yeah.
Next tournament I go to, I'm committed now.
We're gonna check on Longshank here.
Yeah, you can check. Definitely. No, I'm more than happy to play him in a tournament now. I've been getting in some games with him in the last week while, obviously during the errata, and I do think now he has a role in. I think he's definitely a receiving captain. I don't know if I'd play him if I had to kick, but if you receive into any kind of mid-level or fighty team, I think he's really strong there now. So yes, I will play Grange at the next tournament I go to. Confirmed.
Okay, we'll check that for sure. Next one on the list are my hunters. Well, the hunters, sorry.
No bias here.
No, not at all. What I find interesting is Egret, because I didn't expect this at all. So she got close control, but did you make it to help hunters? Because now with Edge, they have 2 models with close control, or it was to give the Falconers some help.
Some support, yeah.
It was largely intended to give a close control model to Falconers, because the Falconers, I think they're obviously in a much better place than they were, but they still have a weakness to kind of tempo goal scoring teams, who can kind of get in and score goals before Falconers can get their wind up going, because Falconers have quite a lot of setup. Like, they have phenomenal damage output.
But the setup time is there.
They got to drop those Harriers, then move them into position, and then Davana kills something, right? So
and so they could struggle because there were a lot of goal-scoring teams, because Falconers previously didn't have any model with any kind of ball defense ability. And so there were a lot of teams that could kind of, while the setup's happening, could just get in amongst the Falconers and like score 2 goals. And they're like, well, we did all the wind-up and we got a kill or 2, but we're now 8-4 down because they've gone in so aggressively and scored goals.
Yeah, the tempo is too fast for them, right?
Yeah, basically. And so giving Egret close control is just really an attempt to give them a little, like, some support in those matchups and give them a tool to help them in those matchups.
But not only that, she now has a tackle dodge on 1.
Yes.
Right? That makes a huge difference, too. She can steal that ball away from players and get out of their melee or whatever.
Yeah.
Try to get out of their melee.
You now have to be much more. Yeah. You now have to be much more careful with how and when you attack her. But also, she is still only tack 4, so like it's
and 1 inch melee.
And 1 inch melee, yeah. So it is an improvement. It doesn't change her. I think the close control is the much bigger change on her.
And do you think it's going to provide a more standoff game to the hunters with her? Because now she has close control and she provides rain damage, so you can have more standoff game with her, with Steeljaw, and like just wait. And do you think it's going to create that effect as well, or?
I don't expect so. It may do to an extent, but I think teams that want to score goals are still going to have tools to get in there to get the ball off her, and teams that don't want to score goals don't really care about the close control.
Yeah.
It does slow the game down a little bit for those teams that want to go in and get the ball and score with it.
It's a small speed bump.
Yeah, basically, yeah. No, that's actually a really good way of putting it. Like, it's a speed bump rather than a wall, you know? But yeah, I mean, I think maybe it will provide a little bit more kind of sit back and shoot ability from the hunters, but that's entirely within their bit of the color wheel, you know? So I think that's okay.
Next one, I'm surprised and really happy to see get changed as well, is J-Car. It doesn't feel like the weaker Ronda's cousin.
Yes, J-Car was one of those, like we talked about Union earlier. J-Car is one of those models that was incredible in Season 3, and so didn't get any changes, and now is just below the curve in Season 4. And we've just given him, like, we've made what he does better. So again, he still has the same weaknesses, but he's now, it feels like you're getting kind of more bang for your buck when you spend influence on J-Car.
Yeah, well, his 3 damage is 1 column lower. So instead of the 2 damage momentous push dodge, it's now 3 damage momentous push dodge, which is really awesome. And also, gut and string is all over the place.
Yes, he triggers that almost at whim now. Like, he just kind of triggers that whenever he wants.
It's going to be much easier to do because it's the first one is on the first column instead of second, but the 2 damage gut and string is on the third one. So it's going to be more interesting and easier to do with the damage.
Mm-hmm.
The rest is the same.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's still fragile and everything.
Yeah, but it feels like he's worth bringing because he gets to do more things with the influence that you give him now.
Well, his damage output is a bit higher with the 3 damage lower, so it brings him near Rundas.
Yeah.
Well, the next one is one we talked about earlier, Corbelli, the guy with the long leg with 2-inch melee.
Yeah, he's got
a chain and a thing on the end of it. I mean, that's his 2-inch melee, right? It's not his legs.
Yeah, that's what it is. He has a chain thing, but like because we wrote him with a 2-inch melee, and then we kind of got the sculpt back, and we're like, Ross, he doesn't have a 2-inch melee, mate. And Ross is like, nah, it's fine. He's got a wee chain thing on his side, and we're like, all right, sure, buddy. Like, whatever. You're the sculptor, mate. You know.
So, well, the major change is now he's less easy turning into a beater because his 2 damage is up 1 column. It's still momentous 2 damage, but on the 3rd instead of the 2nd. But the biggest change is legendary.
Yes, the legendary was the biggest point we identified as we talked about. It was just too easy. It felt like
2-8 and win.
Yeah, it felt a little bit like cheating. You know, it was just far too easy for him to score goals and to just get control of the ball. And that kind of was just something we had to take off, really, because we wanted to maintain how cool and how powerful making space was, because that's his kind of signature rule. But that meant he had to lose quite a bit of power somewhere else. And the legendary was the place where we're kind of like, let's just take this off and let's force him to play the game a bit more honestly, you know?
Yeah, it's fair.
Let's make people feel like they have a chance. Yeah.
Let's not make this an auto win.
Yeah.
And the other captain as well got some love, was Honor. She got the quick time change, so it's now 1 instead of 2. So that's a change for her.
Absolutely.
Superior strategy change as well. It's now 2 influence instead of 4, but doesn't give you back the influence.
Yes. So it doesn't. Now you don't quite have the same flexibility of using it to allocate influence to a model midway through a turn, but you kind of don't care because it's only 2 influence. You know.
Yeah.
It's definitely much easier for him. For her. Sorry. It's late. It's much easier for her, and that's also what the playbook changes as well are intended to do, and bring her down a little, bring her playbook results down and make them easier to achieve, and make her momentum generation easier to achieve as well.
Yeah, our 1 damage is now momentous, and her knockdown got down 1 column as well.
Yeah,
and she kept the assist with the Marble and the link with Harmony as well.
Yes, yeah. So that's the kind of the core character of the model that we didn't want to change. We just wanted to make her more efficient at what she was doing.
Well, she's more influence efficient now with the change to superior strategy for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
for sure.
The mascot changed a bit. Marble. He still has counter charge, but now he's not dependent on Brick.
Yes, so he was one that we wanted to. There's a couple of places in Masons where we wanted to decouple some of their roster selection issues, because a lot of the time it felt like if you picked one model, you were kind of locked into 3 other models because of all of the various synergies. And now you're not as tied into bringing Brick if you bring Marbles or vice versa. You've got a lot more freedom in that choice.
Yeah, but now you might want to bring Brick in your lineup as before. He got the major overall.
Yeah.
Well, he needed it too because he was seeing like practically 0 play, wasn't he?
Yeah, and that was interesting because the only thing he lost going from 3 to 4 was his 2-inch melee. Like that was literally all that changed on him, and he went from being literally an auto include in every Mason lineup to never really seeing play.
Well, it was for the counter charge that it made a huge difference for the range.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But that's not a problem anymore.
Yeah, that's not an issue. Yeah,
problem solved.
That was also one of the things that we wanted to address, is that we're trying to phase countercharge out of the game. Generally, like, we're trying to reduce the impact countercharge has, because it's a pretty big negative play experience, and it's pretty punishing to your opponent. Right? Yeah, it's a gotcha at the end of the day. And you can, like, I think all of us who use models with countercharge have had moments where, like, your opponent is like moving a model and they put it down and you're like, don't forget countercharge. Like, I don't want to win the game because you've made one silly mistake. And so it's something that we're trying to reduce the effectiveness of. So part of that was like Tenderizer lost it in the last errata, Brick lost it in this one. So Marble still has it, but he's obviously a mascot. Tater has it, but his playbook isn't particularly good for countercharging. And finally, Compound has it, but Compound is a goalkeeper and is also not seeing a ton of play in Season 4, so sure, that one's not really a problem.
Right, so Brick lost countercharge but gained Gravity Well. Which we see on Kraken and on Locust, I think it is, right?
Yes. Yeah. And it meant we could keep his 1-inch melee, but he really gets to use it now. Because he's got, like, obviously he's got that low down, like, he's now got the lowest knockdown in Masons as well.
Yeah, his momentous knockdown on 1 is makes people think, right?
I think the lowest other result in Masons is on 2, I think. Which gives him a kind of unique role there, and also gives him a unique role in terms of how easily he can move opposing models around.
Well, and he's third year as well with 2-3 defensive instead of 2-2.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Because he's now a model that often is going to be your kind of leading model, that's going to be a model that you feel you can throw in and be like, he can take a punch, he can survive for a few activations without dying. And so we felt that 3 armor was kind of justified in terms of making him that big, tough, strong boy that he's intended to be.
Oh, he's going to stick as well. And he gained a new it's a brand new ability, right, Fulcrum?
It is, yeah. It's completely new for him.
But
handing out toys to everyone in 6 inches is interesting.
Yeah. It's kind of cool because he is intended to be that kind of very centre-back model that kind of sits in the middle of your team and just controls people and knocks them down and moves them around and kind of sets them up for the rest of your team. And so in terms of that, a model that's sitting in the middle of your team, this also felt quite thematic and quite cool for him to serve that role.
Yeah, I think he's going to be there in the middle with Granite as well and holding the line, I guess. Yeah. He
is much tougher than Granite, though.
He's harder to manage. Harmony got some changes as well.
Some playbook shuffling.
Largely what we did with Harmony was, so we increased their attack to 5 base. We shortened their playbook to 5 and moved some stuff around and made her playbook much better. Because we wanted to, previously it felt like she wasn't being rewarded if she got family, but she was being punished if she didn't get it. And we wanted to make it actually feel like a good thing that you want to get rather than something that you're punished for not bringing.
Yeah, which is pretty nice because now if she has family, well, she'll get a tax 6 and she'll have a quote unquote brewer's playbook.
Yes, absolutely. Whereas
before she was.
You couldn't really activate her before if she didn't have family because she was just bad.
So now she's usable on herself instead of needing honor to be effective.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's it for Mason. So they were changed a lot in this errata.
A lot more than I expected, actually. That kind of surprised me. Yeah, because they were doing fairly well, right?
Yeah,
I think a lot of Mason's players locally, but what I was seeing on Longshanks, they were doing okay. So
yeah, I think Corbelli was a big part of that, and we sort of started planning this errata obviously a while back, but part of what we wanted to do was just go in and look at your kind of typical honor lineup, because honor had, I think, the lowest win rate of any captain on Longshanks. And so largely the models in this errata are models that are that kind of core honor team of like Harmony, Brick, Marbles, Flint, you know.
Yeah, a lot of the starter box models,
the kickoff model.
Yeah. And so we wanted to go in and just give them a sort of general sprucing up, and just sort of, you know, whitewash the windows, dust the rafters, you know, just make their lives a little bit easier.
I think it's
go ahead.
Yeah, I know, but I say it's going to shuffle a lot of the Masons, I think, because the default 6 won't be the same anymore.
Yes, I would certainly hope so, and I think it also makes it much more of a choice in terms of captain selection, because now I think it's tough to pick 2 captains out of the 3 even.
Yeah. She's viable now.
Yes, very definitely. Like cost 2 superior strategy.
Yeah,
so good. Real good.
Another captain that we might pack again is Morn.
Yes.
I play Mortician as well, so I'm a bit biased on that one as well. But I'm still trying to figure out how she plays.
Yep. She definitely plays completely differently to every other Mortician and most other captains in the game, quite frankly, because she doesn't have that kind of the reflexive thing that a lot of captains have in the game, where you're like, I don't know what to do, I'm going to give my captain 6 influence and see what happens. And Morn cannot do that. Like, she has to rely on her team to do all of the work. Like, she will do nothing herself. She will not contribute to you scoring VPs in any way.
And she's really a buff bot.
Yes.
Well, she's annoying.
Yeah.
Because of no, but seriously, because of control string, she dodges like now she has control string like memory.
Yes.
But she also has a legendary play now. It's called Hunting Gaze, which means every model within the 6-inch enemy model, that are within the 6-inch aura need to move towards her during their advance.
If they begin the advance in that aura,
yeah.
She's got a taunt.
Yeah, exactly.
She basically has like
AoE
gold. Yeah, but it's not directly towards, which is worth noticing.
Yeah, but she can dodge, so she can annoy and kind of reposition people with it to push them further or forward, depending on where you need them.
Yeah.
So it's kind of weird, I think.
Yeah. She's definitely a captain that you probably need to play about 5 or 10 games with her before you even really start figuring out what the hell you're doing.
Yeah, she lost Raising Anger, but she gained
something better.
Something better.
Yep.
Guaranteed 2 momentum.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty nice.
Mm-hmm.
But she lost the reroll. So did you remove the reroll because it didn't feel thematic to the Mortician, or because it was too strong with Ghast and Gaffer?
It wasn't so much too strong as we wanted to give her control strings for that kind of weird, janky, all of the options, like all of the kind of ridiculous movement options. And we needed space on the back of the card because we knew we wanted the legendary as well. So part of Fated going is that obviously Malice isn't once per turn anymore. So now, rather than getting Fated once per turn, you can just put out multiple Malices and just roll a bunch more dice, basically.
Combined with Gaffer's Whisper as well.
Yeah, why not? Plus 4 sack.
Jeez.
Do you want me to do the sax, Paul, or it's okay?
No, it's okay. Okay.
Yeah, definitely gonna need to try her because she's not an easy model to use, but I think she has lots of potential.
I think she's definitely just a model that you have to put a lot of work in to figure out, but I think if you ever do get her figured out, she's terrifying.
Yeah, I guess I'll just have to plan a Skype interview with Perkins and have a chat with him to see.
Yeah, although he actually really doesn't like her because she has such a passive, like she's such a kind of waiting playstyle where Perkins likes playing super aggressively. So he really likes Obulus and Scalpel because they can super aggressively get into the opposing team and mess them around and do stuff with them. Whereas Morn's much more like, I'm going to sit here, here are my defensive bubbles, here's everything, you have to unpick this.
Yeah, but she helps the squatty, but let's be honest, Mortician squatty on their own are not that great. But now they're getting more and more help from like other players like Gaffer and Morn as well. So maybe they'll get better, and you'll have to rely a bit more on them instead of the good old 7 influence Obulus.
Yeah, I think that's it. She shifts the balance of where normally your squaddies put buffs on your captain and they do work. Now your captain's putting buffs on your squaddies and they don't work. And it's a really interesting inversion from a design standpoint.
I'm curious to see how that 2-free momentum is going to pan out as well.
Yeah. It's gonna be real good. Let's just go with that.
Then we have the minor guild. Some minor guilds that got some change. Minor change to minor guilds, I guess.
Yep.
Yes.
Ebb is now -2 armor instead of -1, so just to help them against Masons and Blacksmith again.
Yeah, basically, because Navigators, because of how their playbooks are constructed and how their momentum generation works, they really, really struggle into guilds that have a preponderance of 2 armor or higher. And so Sprung a Leak was intended to be their tool that they could bring to get around those matchups, but it wasn't doing quite enough beforehand. So now it's actually really having the effect that we always kind of wanted it to have. And it just makes Navigators' lives a lot easier in those matchups.
Definitely. What I'm curious is Scourge. So you gave Scourge a more ball ability. Did he really need it?
Well, so he was the Ratcatcher model that we felt wasn't getting picked a great deal because rats now are predominantly intended to be a 3-0 verging into a 2-2 guild, and there's reasons to bring like Miasma, for instance, because she has good support abilities. There's reasons to bring like Pelage because she can do a lot of damage without really spending influence. But Scourge kind of was struggling a little bit in that regard, and we didn't want to just up his damage because we didn't want to make the guild much better at damage. But we wanted to give them more flexibility with using the ball, and that felt like kind of a cool rule we could put on there and really give them more of an ability to use the ball. particularly because Scourge actually now is a really good target for Reverie, because Reveries effectively now only cost 2 if you use it on Scourge.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. It's a fair compromise, right?
Yeah.
The other minor guild that had changed were Order, and it's not Seasoned Brisket.
Yeah. Don't get me started, Steve.
Well, just a quick question. I'm going to ask it, Paul. Why is Seasoned Brisket the only striker captain without a tackle on the first column?
Shark doesn't have the tackle in the first column.
Well, Shark has tack 6.
Well,
and 2-inch melee.
That's not the question you asked me.
I see.
Okay. Dodging the question, I guess.
Largely because Brisket has other, like she has With Aplomb, which is unique in the game now, and lets her get an additional VP for a goal. She has other toolbox abilities like I'm Open as well, which particularly when combined with the Ball of Light gives her phenomenal movement capabilities. And especially with her legendary as well. So she kind of does it more by movement based stuff. And don't get me wrong, I'm not ruling out like if that proves to be a problem with Order going forward, maybe we nudge her tackle down. We're not averse to that, but because we looked at Grace and Benny, and they are the 2 models in Order that never
get taken. Yeah. I've never ever taken them. They don't even come out of my bag when I play Order. So, but now they will. They have some interesting options now.
Yeah, and that was such a shame as well, because they have, like, I think particularly Benny is just one of the coolest models we've ever made.
Absolutely, I love Benediction.
Yeah, like he's just one of the most interesting, badass looking models we've ever made, and it was such a shame he wasn't getting played, you know? And so now, like, he has much more options. Like, Playmaker is a really cool ability with obviously with Ball of Light, it has some phenomenal implications, and also with Blackheart for On My Mark, it has really good interactions there.
That's true. I hadn't considered that.
Yeah.
Because the thing is that with Order, like his Impart Wisdom didn't really come into play that much.
Yeah. And that was one thing we like. It's a cool thematic rule, but if there's a rule in a models card that isn't ever really getting used, that's one.
There's no point in having it there.
Yeah, exactly. We'll always look at those rules and be like, there's kind of no point having this rule on the card, basically.
Yeah. Moving his tackle down also made him feel more like he's supposed to be in a ball-playing team, right?
Yes, absolutely. Like, that was just something that we were like, his tackle can definitely come down just to make him more thematically fit into the Order.
Yeah, and Grace as well got some love, and she got a respectable kick now. Right? Well, it was okay at 2-8, but it was overshadowed by the other model in the guild, I guess.
Yeah.
So now at 3-8 puts more her on part with Mist and the other striker in the team.
Well, the big thing for her is her legendary, because now she has a legendary that lets her basically steal back the Ball of Light.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the biggest weakness that the Order had, is if you take away that Ball of Light, you'll take a bit of damage, but it completely shuts down most of what they want to do.
Yeah.
They're all about the movement shenanigans, right? Without that ball.
Yeah, they can really struggle to actually get it. Like, if your opponent just kicked it into a corner, it's not really worth ever putting resources into getting it back, because you're also chasing the real ball. And so Grace now just gives you an option where if you're playing against a team that has the capability to just quite easily steal the Ball of Light and boot it away into a corner, now Grace is like, no, we're having that back.
Get out of jail.
Yeah, exactly. It's a get out of jail free card, basically. But the other really good thing that Grace does now is she's a battery model, like a model that doesn't need influence in order to affect the game.
Yeah, and she has Talisman now, right? So
yeah, and that's something that neither Order or Union really had in the past. And so I think you'll see her in quite a few lineups now, just as that model that's just going to sit there and throw out buffs every turn and doesn't ever get influence unless she has to actually take part in the game.
Effectively, it is the same thing that Blessed did, though. Right? Blessed gave her 2 influence for free, that she could then use her character plays.
Yeah, but she only got one. She only gave 1 influence to the team.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's 100% true.
Yeah. So now she can give 2 influence to the rest of the team while still impacting the game.
Yeah. So their net pool influence is 1 more. Yeah.
Yeah, basically, yeah. Yeah.
And
well, also it's just a cleaner way of doing it, right? Because it's the same. That rule already existed on other models, whereas her Blessed was kind of unique to her and just different for no reason.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it was just somewhere we could standardize a little bit. While still maintaining the feel of the model and giving the team a bit more flexibility because, technically she brought 3 influence, but 2 of it was on her. Whereas now, like, she brings technically 4, but you have to spend it on 2 on a character play. So you get the rest of the team gets 1 more, and she still gets to do a buff for free.
Mm-hmm.
And last, the Union.
Lastly, yes, Union.
They got
ton of changes.
Lots of changes as well, because their play rate was lower than almost as low as the Cooks.
Yeah. They really struggled from being one of the top guilds in Season 3, because then we didn't give them any real changes going into Season 4, and unfortunately that meant like a lot of their models hadn't been significantly updated since Season 1, actually, if you look at a lot of them.
Yeah.
And so we just wanted to give them... A lot of these changes are actually very small, but they're kind of good quality of life changes that really help bring up the models. Just nudge them up a little bit, make their lives more easier, and make them more viable in a Season 4 world.
I mean, a great example of that is Avarice and Greed, right?
Exactly. That's what I was going to say.
Avarice gained 1 armor. Greed no longer has to spend an influence to be picked up. So that makes them a little bit more survivable and a little less resource needy.
Yes, yeah. They're just it just makes the whole package more efficient and stops Avarice getting farmed for momentum quite as easily. Which is really what, as I say, like, just little small changes to make their lives easier.
Yeah, Vet Rage is damage got a bit buff as well, to help him to be on par with Season 4, and he got the quick time buff as well.
And he got 1 more influence.
Yeah, and 1 more influence.
Because Vet Rage used to be one of the scariest models in the game, and he just wasn't scary in a Season 4 world, and now I think...
Because of Vet Boar.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much, yeah. But now I think Vet Rage is definitely scary again.
Yeah, especially with quick time going down, because that means he can spend 1 to dodge out. He brings 1 more net influence. He costs him 1 less to dodge out, so he can still get his charge, unless it's a 2-inch melee and you're base to base or whatever. But like it gives him more options. It gives him more things he can do. It makes him more interesting.
Yeah. He's
absolutely. Less easy to control, right?
Yeah. He's slightly like he needs to spend less resources to get out of control, out of being controlled, and when he does get to charge things, his impact is much more significant now.
Yeah. Strongbox, just a small thing as well. 2 more hit point, and that's it.
No, not exactly. Huh? Shelling Out changed. Shelling Out used to target the enemy model, and now it's based off your models. Oh, so your models have to be within the 4-inch aura.
Also, it's stronger. So the aura is bigger.
Yes, effectively.
Yeah, well, it means that the turtle doesn't have to be quite so far up, because the problem is he's so slow. It was hard to get the enemy models in his aura quickly, right? So this way, at least you've got a little bit more options.
Yeah, it just as you say, it gives you a lot more freedom, and effectively, if you're talking about like a friendly model that has a 2-inch melee zone, effectively that aura becomes like 7 inches bigger, because you've got, instead of the enemy model having to be within 4, it's a friendly model within 4, and then base size, and then the melee zone.
Yeah.
So
right,
actually,
using on like Benediction or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It becomes much bigger. Yeah.
Yeah. So it actually kind of ends up being like a massive aura. Now you're dealing. Now it affects the friendly models, and that's just really cool. And I hope we see, because Strongbox is another model that we haven't really seen very much in season 4, and I'd love to see the little tortoise back on the pitch, because he's a great wee sculpt. Like,
yeah, it's and things. It's hard to compete with a free influence and bonus time, right?
Yeah,
I get it.
Yeah.
And a 2-inch melee, and there's a bunch.
Yeah, but I'm hoping now, because he still has confidence, which is obviously really good, and the fact that shelling out is now affects a much larger area of the pitch effectively. I think hopefully you'll start to see him a bit more now.
Yeah. All right, Minx. Big changes.
Yes. So Minx is basically what we looked at this model was one of the bits of feedback we kept getting from Union players was that Union actually really struggled if they had to kick, because they didn't have a particularly good kicking model in a lot of instances. And so Minx is our attempt to give them a model that is quite a good kicker, because she's fast. She now has much better damage and much more options on her playbook. Or she's a very good support for a kicker, because she can go up, do mark target, and do axe throw, and do like 3 damage snared, and then mark target someone so that your kicker can get in there. Yeah. And obviously axe throw now also triggers back to the shadows, so that gives her much more flexibility in how she moves around.
Yeah, that range snare back to the shadows is gonna be yummy.
Yeah, it's pretty tasty, right?
Well, and she's also gained some health and some damage buff, because now she can do a 4 damage momentous double dodge, which is going to be pretty nice with the back to the shadow as well. Instead of 3, it's now 4. So
yeah,
and 3 damage mark target is going to be fun as well.
Yep.
Yes, that's a very strong result. So I think you're going to start seeing Minx a lot more in future,
and not just as an influence bot.
No. Yeah, she's a much stronger role now.
Speaking of influence bot, Rage.
Yeah, Rage is going to be so good now.
Yeah. Because he just felt a little left behind, because his card hasn't changed apart from losing Maverick. His card hasn't changed since season 1. And so like there's very few models now that only bring 1 influence to the table. And he felt like he needed a little something to make up for that. So that's why he got his new heroic that lets him 2-up either himself or someone else for free. And then he can obviously still charge for free, and he has Berserk, so his personal damage output is a lot higher, or he can obviously 2-up someone else without actually spending influence, which is really good.
Yeah, he's not losing... he's gaining damage output because he's not losing the influence by tooling himself up.
Yeah, exactly. Like
that's a pretty good big difference. Means 2 more attack, basically.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's a lot scarier.
Yeah, he's going to be quite the missile.
Yeah, I hope so. Because he's also one of, when we talk about like unique and cool sculpts in the game and cool models, Rage is one of the most like iconic models in Guild Ball. And I'm really hopeful we start seeing him kind of back on the pitch again, because he's just awesome.
Well, I think he certainly has a good chance of being there now.
Yeah. Good.
And the last one is Decimate.
Yeah, I'm super excited about this one.
Yeah. So she gained a 4 damage on the top end of her playbook, and a 4 damage dodge, sorry, and she gained a 1,000 cuts trigger on column 4
instead of 6.
Instead of 6, yeah. So it is non-momentous, but it now means that, like, particularly with anatomical, if she's charging someone, she has a pretty good chance of triggering that non-momentous 1,000 cuts, and then whoever you're attacking dies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's gonna be good. And I guess that's one of the reasons that she's not allowed in Masons anymore.
Yeah. That would probably be a bit much.
No, again, it's not that big of a change, but it's a big change. Well, the 4 damage dodge is pretty huge. I mean,
yeah.
All in all the damage output on the Union has gone up a bit on lots of the models we've seen tonight. Mm-hmm. So I think it's going to help them.
It's, as we're saying, it's just a lot of, like, quality of life changes.
Well, it brings them more in line with what we've seen in Season 4.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, it just gives them that little bit of a tweak that they need to get back into being competitive.
Yeah. Now, we're just going to ask one last question before we let you go to bed.
Or celebrate your birthday.
No, it is 20 past 1 here, so I apologize. I can feel myself getting more tired, so I apologize if I've been...
You've almost made it, man. You've almost made it. So, no changes to Blackheart. And I thought that was kind of weird because he's kind of a unique model in how he works. Because he's a fast captain who's only fast in the right conditions. Mm-hmm. And no other models really like that. So I figured he would change because yes, he's unique and it's interesting, but his design hasn't changed since like Season 2, I don't think.
Yeah. I think that's right. Blackheart basically was one we discussed, but we felt because the rest of his team is getting better around him, and particularly like Playmaker on Benediction is now really good with Blackheart, and the original Rage buff is effectively a Blackheart buff because you can't use him with Veteran Rage. We felt like there was enough extra things that he had that we didn't need to hit him in this errata, because this errata is already enormous. And we felt it wasn't necessary at this time. But like earlier when I talked about how some models are sort of on a watch list and they're models that we are very aware of going forward, usually we use that to mean models that are potentially above the curve. Blackheart's one that we are aware of for potential future changes. But we just didn't feel that he warranted inclusion in this errata. But he's definitely, because a lot of his support staff have got better, and he still has a lot of good tools, and he still has probably the best legendary in the entire game. And so it might happen in future. We didn't think it was necessary right this second.
Right, basically. Because you changed all the pieces around him, so you want to see how it levels out. Makes sense.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
All right. Steve, is there anything else you want to add quickly before Bryce fades completely?
No, we made it. Thanks a lot for your time. I know it's really late, and it's your birthday. Bonne fête encore.
Yeah. Happy birthday, Bryce. Thanks so much for taking the time to talk to us.
Thank you very much.
I know it's not easy for you with the time difference.
Yeah, but it's a real pleasure to come on, because obviously we've tried to kind of set this up. This is, I think, the third time.
Yeah, it's the third Steamforged release. We tried to set an interview up, and we finally managed to get it up.
Yes, so I'm very glad I finally got to come on and talk about toys until 1:30 in the morning.
Well, now go to bed and dream about toys, future toys.
Of course I will. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Bryce.
Thanks again, Bryce. Take care.
Thank you very much, lads. Cheerio.
Later.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Geeks of the North. If you want to contact us, you can email us at geeksofthenorth@gmail.com. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/geeksofthenorth, or follow us on Twitter at Geeks of the North. You can follow me, Paul, at PRFilio, Antoine at Eltonio Berg, Steve at B_Steve, and if you really feel the need, I guess you can follow Yom. He's at Yomasta. Breaks and outro music by Ladrav. You can listen to them at ladrav.bandcamp.com. See you next time, geeks.
Thank you for checking out United Geeks Network family member. If you enjoyed it and are looking for other online media with a geek culture slant, head over to unitedgeeksnetwork.com, where you will find Geeky Voyage, a geek and pop culture blog that explores a variety of fandoms and many pop culture favorites from film, television, music, and various other topics, with liberal doses of humor, quirky musings, and heavy fangirling thrown in. The United Geeks Network. You can broadcast your geekiness at unitedgeeksnetwork.com.